Welcome to AI for enhanced discoverability and user experience in online bookstores. Before we get started, BookNet Canada acknowledges that its operations are remote and our colleagues contribute their work from the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Wyandot, the Mi'kmaq, the Ojibwe of Fort William First Nation, the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, which includes the Ojibwa, the Adawa, and the Potawatomi, and the Métis, the original nations and peoples of the lands we now call Beaton, Brampton, Guelph, Halifax, Thunder Bay, Toronto, Vaughan, and Windsor. We encourage you to visit the nativeland.ca website to learn more about the peoples whose land you are joining from today. Moreover, BookNet endorses the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada and supports an ongoing shift from gatekeeping to space making in the book industry. The book industry has long been an industry of gatekeeping. Anyone who works at any stage of the book supply chain carries the responsibility to serve readers by publishing, promoting, and supplying works that represent the wide extent of human experiences and identities in all that complicated intersectionality. We at BookNet are committed to working with our partners in the industry as we move towards a framework that supports space making, which ensures that marginalized creators and professionals all have the opportunity to contribute, work, and lead. In spirit of that acknowledgement, I confirm BookNet's and my own responsibility to mend the sacred hoop with Canada's Indigenous peoples, to be an ally to all Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and to unite and work alongside one another. Now let me introduce our speakers. Christian Roy is a technology expert with over 20 years of experience specializing in the culture and book sectors, holding degrees in computer engineering and business administration. He is passionate about innovative projects that leverage metadata to enhance the discoverability of cultural offerings. As the founder of A10s, he guides numerous cultural organizations in their digital initiatives. Christian is also the creator of Hercule, a platform dedicated to measuring discoverability, and TAMIS, an artificial intelligence application designed to enrich metadata. Our second speaker, Jean-Benoît Dumais, holds an MBA in management and specialization in cultural enterprise management, as well as a background in law. He possesses extensive experience in marketing within the cultural sector, including 15 years in the performing arts industry, and has excellent proficiency in managing digital platforms. In February 2018, he joined the team of the Cooperative of Independent Bookstores of Quebec as general manager. He is also the publisher of the bi-monthly magazine, leslibraires. Over to you, Christian and Jean-Benoît.
Thank you, Tim. Hi, everyone. We're glad to be here to discuss the fabulous opportunities provided by AI to improve what we can find on online bookstores. Tim just introduced us. We will still take a few seconds to add a few words and then move on to the actual presentation. So I will let Jean-Benoît introduce himself first.
Welcome, book industry professionals. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of AI in the book industry. You'll get a first-hand look at tools and techniques that publishers and booksellers are using right now to enhance discoverability and user experience in online bookstores. My name is Jean-Benoît Dumais, CEO of Leslibraires Cooperative, and I will be joined, like you've seen today, by our technology partner, Christian Roy, from A10s. And don't worry, we haven't forgotten about the elephant in the room. We understand the concern many of you have about AI's impact on freelancers and the workforce in our industry. will address these issues head on. By the end of the session, you'll have a clear understanding of what is leslibraires.ca, reminders on metadata, discoverability, and user experience, the opportunities that pave the way to our project, practical usage of AI-generated metadata on the web, and of course, results and insights. So get ready to explore the cutting edge of AI in books. Les Libraires is a vibrant cooperative that brings together 120 independent bookstores across Canada. We have a strong presence in Quebec, extending into the Maritimes, Ontario, and Manitoba. At the heart of Les Libraires' success is a business model centered on mutualization. This allows our bookstores to pool resources and expertise. This approach enables even small bookshops to access advanced technology that would be typically prohibitively expensive for individual bookstores. However, the benefits of membership extend beyond technological access. Our bookstores can participate, for example, in joint TV advertising campaigns. They enjoy collective membership in the FCIB, and they leverage group purchasing power with Canada Post for reducing shipping costs. The cooperative operating under the banner Les Libraires represents a unique model in the bookselling industry. By bringing together the independent bookstores, our approach offers several key advantages. First, our strategy fosters an environment ripe for collaboration and innovation among members. This is a collective mindset that allows us to leverage our combined strengths and knowledge. Additionally, our cooperative model contributes to sustainability efforts by optimizing existing resources and minimizing redundancies. Doing so, we create a more efficient approach to bookselling. It's worth noting the impact of recent events on our business. After the dramatic surge of sales during COVID-19, we've seen stabilization that remains remarkably strong compared to pre-crisis levels. Our booksellers are uniting to compete in the digital age and level the playing field in the face of rising web giants. Our platform also brings together, I would say, Canadian independent bookstores and publishers. This is a collective effort to thrive out in the crowded online global marketplace. What we do is we create a unified online presence with a robust technological infrastructures to compete against dominant web retailers. By joining forces, small players can access advanced capabilities. They benefit from our investments and extensive experience to stand out and enhance discoverability, and they do so by leveraging enriched metadata and AI. Merely having an online presence is no longer sufficient for booksellers in Canada. The digital landscape presents both challenges and opportunities. According to the More Canada study that was published in 2018, changes in how Canadians discover, purchase, or borrow books are eroding the presence of Canadian expression in our cultural landscape. This concerning trend highlights the crucial role that independent bookstores can play. To counter this erosion, independent bookstores can play two complementary roles: raising awareness among readers and ensuring access to Canadian books. However, translating the unique atmosphere and curation of physical bookshops to the digital realm is not straightforward. To address this challenge, our bookstores are embracing cutting-edge technology. To make Canadian books more discoverable online, our bookstores are innovating by using AI to enrich traditional metadata. This is a task that is not performed by Amazon or other big players. As you may guess, implementing such a system requires cooperation. By fostering this partnership between bookstores and publishers, we are moving to the forefront of digital innovation in our book industry. But first, we had to raise awareness among publishers about the potential of using AI to improve book discoverability. This step was crucial to obtain their consent for using their works and text. Now to you, Christian.
Thank you, Jean-Benoît. As Jean-Benoît said, I will start with reminders on how metadata, discoverability, and user experience interact. And this is more the theoretical background to our project, but it's worth doing reminders on it. We start with the hypothesis that those three important concepts interact with each other, and you may ask, how do they interact with each other? And to answer that question, I think it's worth going back to the fundamentals and doing a quick review of the basic building blocks that we have on any book selling website. And then we'll figure out how discoverability, metadata, and user experience are related. And I will start with the most basic building block, which is the book page. The screenshot here shows a typical book page on an online bookstore. It has the title of the book, the author, and maybe the other contributors. It will show its price. It will obviously feature a button to add the book to the cart. And it's something that is very common that you will see on all online bookstores. The second building block is a search engine. Here we can see a search engine where a user will type one or two words and will see books that fit their query. A search engine is almost mandatory on an online bookstore. The sheer number of books available doesn't make it practical to just list them in alphabetical order. You need something more powerful to find the books you're looking for, or discover the books that you don't know about, but for which you have a few keywords, a few ideas. And in complement to that, obviously search is good for certain types of usage, but navigation is also a way to discover. It's a different user path, user journey to discovering books. So navigation is a third building block of any online bookstore. You need that for people to go through categories and subjects and subtopics, etc. Extending on that idea, the fourth building block of an online bookstore, the fourth building block is what I will call marketing and merchandising, but you can see more broadly as making groups of books and showing them to consumers. Those groups can simply be carousels on the bookstore homepage. Sometimes they're bestsellers lists, sometimes they're new releases, or sometimes they're a bit more involved in terms of the ideas between the selection. For instance, the very famous 10 books to read during your summer vacation, or reading suggestions for Christmas, etc. So marketing and merchandising in general is another building block for an online bookstore. Another building block is something that is a bit less common in the book space, but for which consumers expect that type of experience based on what they experience in the music industry or in the film industry. When you log into your Spotify or Apple Music, you get lots of personalized recommendations that are based on your previous listening habits and so on. So the personalized recommendation is also something that is fundamental to the online shopping experience. It's a bit more difficult to do it well in the book space because we have way less data points that there are in the music industry, for instance. But still, it's something that can be used to create the user experience around the online bookstore. And finally, the last building block, I've shown a personalized newsletter. So the newsletter is part of it, but I would say anything that is outreaching to consumers outside of the actual website, so sending newsletters or being on social media, doing actions on search engines. So anything that is outside the website, but that still uses data about the books to bring users in. So when you look at those 6 building blocks, there is one thing they have in common, is that they're all powered by metadata. You would not have the book page without good metadata. The search engine would not work without the metadata. Even the merchandising, the marketing initiatives, the newsletters, they all feature books. They all feature a lot of details about those books, and the metadata are required to do that. But if you look at them from another perspective, you realize that there are, like I said, the building blocks for the website, but also for the user experience. It's taken together, they create the overall user experience that is more than the sum of each of them taken separately. And the other observation I want to make today is that they also all contribute in their ways to discoverability. Some contribute more to what I will call external discoverability. That is making the books visible in user journeys outside of the website. For instance, through search engines. You probably know, 9 out of 10 people use a search engine at least once a day, and most of the times it's Google because they have a dominant market share. So all those items, all those building blocks, especially the book pages, the navigation, the marketing and merchandising, like the blog posts, they all contribute to external discoverability. Whereas some of the other building blocks are more geared towards internal discoverability. That is, once you're on the online bookstore, discovering books or authors or collections that are of interest to you. For instance, the search engine is a very good internal discoverability tool, but there are others. So that's basically it. The answer to my initial questions, how do these 3 concepts are related, is that they interact with each other. Metadata powers them, and each of them influences the other. So that was a bit of a theoretical background before moving to the context and opportunities which led leslibraires to embark on a AI driven project, or I wouldn't say an AI-driven project, a project driven by some business needs that would, in the end, use AI to meet those needs. So diving a little bit more into the context, a few years ago, the cooperative was looking at a huge website redesign project. They wanted to, and that is a good practice, I think, for all online projects, to renew the technology stack, the user experience, the design of the website to be at par with what consumer experience everywhere else on the web. So they did a lot of UX research, talking to consumers, interviewing them about how, what helps them discover books, how do they like to shop online, etc. They also did a lot of audits, including an SEO audit, to see, where they were performing well on the search engines and where they had area for improvement. And through all these audits, there was something that, felt that at first felt like very positive. I mean, the metadata were very well used. Everything that came from the Onyx feeds would end up somewhere on the book page or in the search engine. Discoverability wasn't that bad. UX was overall good. But when you looked at it from a bigger perspective, it was also true for all the other online bookselling sites. I mean, all those sites, they look the same. They have approximately the same search engines, approximately the same book pages. Marketing and merchandising may be different, but in the end, it's always the same old ideas. Like I said, the readings for your summer vacation or etc. So in the end, the opportunity wasn't that there were big problems in the UX or discoverability. It was that we needed to differentiate. We needed to find something to be to offer a bit more to consumers. So that was mostly, that was not the only conclusion. That was one of the conclusions for which I was a lot interested to work with leslibraires to find solutions to that. And the question we asked was, could we do better with the metadata we have, or do we need more metadata or more data in general to create a better UX, or better discoverability? And this was, we decided and like I said, we were thinking about data because all our building blocks, all our UX building blocks are based on metadata. So before we went further, we decided to do a survey of all the data we had access to. And to try to map them or put them in a matrix just to have a better understanding of how they worked and how they interacted. So we decided to build our matrix based on two variables. First one being, is the data created more on the product side or more on the consumer side of the book chain? And then the other variable being, is the data more descriptive about the book? Is it something you can figure out just by looking at it? Or is it more experiential? Is it based on the actual content of the book, on what you're reading? So this is our matrix based on those two variables. And then I'm going to go through all the quadrants in that matrix. So when you think about the metadata, the descriptive metadata created on the product side, it's obvious. We're talking about the traditional catalog metadata. So title, author, description, cover page image, etc. And it's typically created by publishers or distributors sometimes. The equivalent on the consumer side is more related to the marketing and merchandising, the recommendations, the prices sometimes. So those are data about books that are created by booksellers, sometimes librarians, by critics. Still on the consumer side, but based on experience, based on reading experience, we get user engagement in the form of likes, ratings, reviews. So those are data provided by the readers. But when going through our survey of all the data and metadata that would be available to improve the user experience and discoverability, we realized that we did not have experiential data on the product side. So I'll just leave this on the side for a few seconds and talk about another opportunity that existed on the market at that time. And this was Project TAMIS. TAMIS is a technology which I presented in Tech Forum in 2019. So that was a while ago. When we were doing things in presence. And I remember going to Toronto, talking about this new project. It was still just in the R&D phase. And what TAMIS became afterwards is a tool to use AI to read books and generate metadata or data about the books. And among the different features, there's one called named entities extraction. TAMIS can extract entities from a text. So what that means if we look at any book, so here I have an example, the AI in TAMIS will extract all the places, the people, the events, the organizations that are mentioned in the book. And for each of them, we'll be able to say when and where they were mentioned in the book with an exact sentence or with an excerpt saying, here's that entity in context. So a typical book will contain thousands of entities, and some of them may be a bit less relevant because they're mentioned once, but other are very relevant because they will be recurring through the story. And our hypothesis was that the most dominant entities in a book can become metadata, experiential metadata on the product side, and complete our landscape of all the available data, and maybe be the starting point for new types of user experience and for improving discoverability. So that's all of that put together led us to imagine the actual project, which I'm going to describe in just a few seconds, which is at the intersection of the objectives from the co-op, the objectives being to be able to differentiate from other bookstores, which in the end are very similar to each other, and to improve search engine optimization for long tail keywords. I haven't talked about that a lot. I will come back to it later. The project also benefited from the context and the opportunities. The website redesign was the best context to implement a new innovation, to include AI in a very way that would be authentic and that made sense for the cooperative, combined with the fact that TAMIS had reached some maturity, that the technology was ready for production. And the project also had to take into account the concerns of leslibraires, which has an history of working hand in hand with publishers, and as a cooperative of independent bookstores, take into account the fact that they want to reflect online the experience that you will find in an independent bookstore, that is, interact with humans, have their advice, and not talk with robots overall. So we were trying to build something that was right at the intersection of that Venn diagram, that is something that met the objectives while still taking into account the concerns. So here's what it became once we've seen that, how we, from the theory and from the metadata survey we did, how we transformed that into something concrete that is on the web, available to visitors to the website. So all those features that are related to the new metadata that we have generated with AI are branded together. They're branded as the robot reader, which is really just a sympathetic way, or a fun way to talk about those new features on the website. So just to be clear, I mentioned Project TAMIS. So TAMIS is a professional tool. It's for, it's the back of the scenes tool that reads the books and generates the list of entities and uses AI to do that. Whereas the robot reader is the front-facing, consumer-facing persona, if you want, for the applications based on those metadata. So how does the robot reader influence the website? First, it's now part of the search engine. I mentioned earlier the search engine as being one of the fundamental building blocks of an online bookstore. So now on leslibraires, when you search something, it will not only search in the title or the description or the author name of a book, it will also search entities. So in the example that we see on screen, it's a screenshot of the search engine. The user query is Leonard Cohen. So obviously the search engine will surface books that were written by, or where he was a contributor, but now it also surfaces book where he is a very important entity. So maybe a story where the characters listen a lot to his music. So he wouldn't be a contributor, he wouldn't be in the title, he wouldn't be in the description, but still relevant to discovering that book. So search engine now takes into account the named entities. The other place where we included results, AI generated metadata, again, is in the book pages. For those books that the robot reader has read, we will feature 5 to 10 dominant entities. So in the typical book page, you still have all the information you would have in a normal book page, like the cover page, the description, the name of the author, the buy button, but you will also find the list of topics or entities or subjects that are dominant in the book, and each of them will be accompanied by a few excerpts, from actual quotes from the book that give you a better insight in terms of the mood of the book and the reasons why those entities are relevant to the book itself. So you could see that a bit like a see inside or flip book type feature that shows you a few random pages in the book, but those are excerpts that are targeted to specific ideas, specific entities that are relevant. Another usage that we did of those AI-generated metadata is relatively technical, but I won't go into the technical details. I will just say that we used the entities as enhancement to the structured data that we include in the book pages. So structured data is using a specific format called JSON-LD and a specific vocabulary called schema.org. And I'm sorry about the technical names here, but just understand that this is a technical spec that was created by a consortium of search engines and social media operators to have website publishers, not only of books, but of any types, provide metadata to indexing bots, web crawlers, etc., to better understand the content of the pages. So on Les Libraires, what we do is obviously we display the page for human visitors and we make it as good looking as possible with as most information as possible. But there's also an effort to make it accessible to bots, to crawler bots from search engines. And in that particular case, what we're saying to the bot, here's a page about this book, and here's the title, here's the ISBN, but also here are the relevant entities. So we're basically telling the bot this book is about, and then Leonard Cohen in one case, or something else in other cases. So this is something that you will not see as human users, but that the multiple bots that crawl the web will be able to use to know about those books, and then eventually, hopefully, bring more consumers on the Les Libraires website. The other application that I want to talk about is a little bit different from the first three ones because it's not fully automated. In all those cases, we automate everything. The book comes in TAMIS, the metadata are generated, an API sends that data to Les Libraires, the search engine is automatically updated. In the last case, what we did was to provide the professional tool, so the TAMIS interface, to the staff of leslibraires.ca and to the staff of some members of the cooperative, so that they could use those tools to create innovative marketing and merchandising initiatives. So like I mentioned earlier, carousels that come up on the homepage, or blog posts, articles that talk about books. So the example on the screenshot here says 10 books that talk about Les Cowboys Fringants. So Les Cowboys Fringants is a very famous music band in Quebec. They are very popular. But there are not so many books about them, like a band biography or something, but they're so popular that they come up everywhere in literature, in fiction, characters that listen to their music or go to their shows and so on. So with TAMIS, we were able to identify those books, create a list, pick up short excerpts that are relevant to that, and create a blog post. This could have been done manually, but with lots of efforts, because unless you have read thousands of books and you can remember exactly that on page 25 they talk about that and that, it's almost impossible to build that in an efficient way. Whereas with an AI-assisted technology, those types of articles can be prepared in 10, 15, 20 minutes because, you know, it's more of a matter of curating which excerpts you include than on you know, having to do all the research. And so we're very proud of that because it combines the power of AI, but still with the judgment, the human intelligence, and the human sensibility of the booksellers and the staff at Les Libraires, and it shows very good results. I'll talk about those in a few minutes. So those were the major innovations that were implemented on the bookstore thanks to having AI-generated metadata, things that could not have been done without the AI-generated metadata. I will briefly go over some results and insights coming from that project. And the first one is something we did not expect at first. The project did position Les Libraires as an innovator. We got media coverage, and I've included a few links to that media coverage. Sorry, it's all in French, but I'm sure you can all use the translator to have a look at them. So we got TV, you know, TV coverage on the CBC, on the French CBC, even medias in France did cover the bot as something that was impressive, you know, having the independent booksellers do something as innovative as that. The other impact was something that we did expect, and actually it was one of the objectives. The fact that we did provide new metadata, that we're creating new content based on those metadata did have an impact on SEO for long-term keywords. So the article, the blog post that I showed you a few minutes ago about the music band, well, just a few days after posting it, if you went to Google and asked for books about this band, well, the Les Libraires content would show up first, and even with a rich snippet. So not just a link in the organic results, but something more rich with a few of those books already listed there, and a more link that leads to the Les Libraires website. And over the time, this has even evolved as carousels now. So now Google is creating carousels based on those listings, again with clicks that will eventually lead to Les Libraires. Another impact that is worth noting, and I want to put that figure in perspective, the conversion rate on the website has really increased following the launch of the redesign, which included the reader robot. But this is probably the result of all the changes that were done at the same time, including the redesign, the improvement on the cart experience, the improvement on multiple aspects of the search engine. So the bot is part of that. We cannot pinpoint how many percentage points are related to the bot or to other things, but it was still a huge outcome of the project. Another outcome was stronger publisher collaboration. Publishers were enthusiastic and really liked the idea. Obviously, like Jean-Benoît said at first, we worked with the publishers to have their consent and to involve them in the project since the start. We're very glad to have more than 30 Quebec or Canadian publishers, most of them from Quebec, a few from elsewhere, join the project. And we did have a lot of interest from the booksellers. For them, it was an innovative project that showed them how AI could help but not replace them. So this was very well received. We got testimonials from bookstore owners who were very glad that they were involved in the project. So I will skip quickly over that testimonial and let Jean-Benoît give you his final thoughts on the project.
As you've just seen, our robot reader addresses this discoverability challenge by extracting themes from books and providing richer descriptions beyond traditional summaries. Through this partnership, publishers have embraced AI as an ally. They did so by granting us licenses and by doing enhanced metadata generation. This proactive approach benefits both publishers and booksellers. The impact is that over 10,000 French-Canadian books now enjoy improved discoverability and increased sales potential thanks to this AI-driven enrichment. As we conclude this webinar, it's clear that AI's impact on the publishing and bookselling industry extends far beyond discoverability and marketing. By embracing AI, we're not only enhancing digital literacy, but also meeting the sector's needs for innovation. These technological shifts, serve as a springboard for further creative initiatives. We think this is setting in motion a virtuous cycle of adoption and progress. The journey of AI in our industry is just beginning, and its potential to reshape how we create, distribute, and consume books is both exciting and boundless. That makes me think we can give you a scoop about our exciting roadmap. Our next phase of innovation and enrichment will be based on indicators related to reading difficulty, reading intentions, and narrative art forms. You can easily imagine that this will enhance our personalized recommendation tools. It will also foster more intuitive and tailored reading experiences. Thank you all for joining us today. We're greatly appreciating your time and attention. Christian and I are now happy to welcome any question you may have.
Thank you, Christian and Jean-Benoît. That was an excellent overview of the work you've done. I have to say, I've really enjoyed watching the development of that website over the years, as I know that we've interacted on the BiblioShare side a bit. We do have a few questions coming in, and so I just get you started with the first one. How is reading and Canadian expression changing due to discoverability online? Are people reading less diverse books, for example? So it sounds like a BookNet kind of question, but I'm sure you have your own insights into what you're seeing in your metrics for discoverability. Do you have a take on whether it is affecting the diversity of people's selections?
May I, Christian?
Sure.
Yeah. So I was referring earlier the More Canada study that was back in 2018. And I think the fact that, we're evolving in an environment dominated by, American culture and everything. And also because the online retailers are always pushing like the novelties or the best sellers. So our job with the kind of work we've done is to dig into things that get less lights. And of course, I'm not sure we've mentioned it, Christian, but all the work was done on Canadian books. So, this initiative sustained by the Canada Council for the Arts was exactly aimed at, shedding lights on Canadian books. So this is to fight against that, trend to always push the same books.
Yeah, very interesting. And when I read that question, I immediately thought of just sort of the search engines on the sites, Google, but of course we have the social media aspect now too, with Book Talk, social sites like that are hopefully pushing discoverability to some extent as well. Are you working at all with any of that data from social media around books? That's my own personal questions.
Well, not necessarily because it's very hard to get factual data from the social media landscape. It's not somewhere, I run another product that does web scraping, and when you do it on online bookstores, you have ISBNs. It's very easy to disambiguate the books, whereas on social media, it's all unstructured. It's a bit, it's difficult to measure things. However, related to our current project, I did not mention it, but the actual content marketing that we do for like the 10 books about such and such things. This is very viral content. It tends to be able to find its way through niche communities on the web. So if you do the 10 books about a specific music band, hopefully, an influencer in that particular niche will start to share that, and not all posts will go viral, but once in a while you get one that does, and then that brings a lot of attention to your site. So that's probably more of our take on the social media aspect of it.
Sure. That makes sense. Okay, I will, because you mentioned disambiguation, I will jump to the third question. I'll go back to this. Do you make an effort to link up your named entities to relevant schema.org type disambiguations for those entities, like an ISNI or other standard ID, to make sure you're talking about the same thing?
The AI solution that we use has a Wikidata ID for all the entities. So they're all related to Wikidata, which is in terms a bridge towards other universal identifiers like the ISNI for people or organizations and others. Yes, we are indeed including the Wikidata ID in the schema to help the search engines or the other crawlers disambiguate the entities.
Thank you. I'm going to move back to the second question. Can you discover accessibility metadata in leslibraires? If so, could we see a demo of finding accessibility metadata? I think I saw some accessibility tags on some of those screenshots.
Yes. Jean-Benoît, do you want to talk about that?
I can talk about that. Do you want to display it?
Yeah, I'll start a screen share. Yeah.
You can go at the footer of the website.
Hold on, I need to start this sharing again.
So this is, a different project, but we received money from Heritage Canada 4 years ago, I guess, to work on this. So if you go at the bottom of you can even show the website in English, yeah. So if you go at the footer of the website, you see a page where we discuss our engagement towards accessibility. And there's a link, Christian, in the page. Yeah, you can see this page. Then you go to the page where is it coming? Yeah. So there's like facets on the left. So this is all books, with accessibility metadata features, I would say. So this has been, it seems to be easy to display it today, but it has been a tremendous work to get this metadata straight, I would say, and it's still something, evolving internationally. We're speaking with groups in Europe and everything. So for now, this is the main way to discover the books that has those features. And you can see there's like 100,000 books. You can, sort it with Canadian. If you go and click livre d'ici.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Canadian, then it goes down to 4,000. So this is still, the money was coming from, like I said, the grant from Heritage Canada, but this is not about, just this push we've had. It's an engagement we have, and we're starting to work with NELS also in this direction to keep on going.
And sorry, Jean-Benoît, I may have missed it. Are you pulling the accessibility data from Onyx as well?
Yes.
Or okay. All of this is coming from Onyx, the accessibility data, or is there any sort of loading on from other
Christian, is it
sources?
only Onyx, or
It's only coming through Onyx from the digital warehouses that provide the metadata to leslibraires. One of them is using an internal tool to do some inference. They parse the actual EPUB to generate additional Onyx tags, from list 176, if I remember well. So it's on the digital warehouse side, they combine publisher provided data and EPUB, inferences from the actual EPUB file, and they shoot all of that through Onyx to leslibraires.
And you can click on Amiens if you want to display how it shows on the product page. So if we go down, up.
No, up. No, where is it?
Accessibility.
Yeah, over here.
Yeah. So obviously this one has no, is it this one?
Yeah.
Yes. And the choice we've made, of course, is to just confirm what we've found in the Onyx. So we don't come, if we're not saying it's not there, it's, I'm looking for the way to say it. We're just saying what we've been confirmed in the Onyx, but not the opposite. If we don't have the information, we don't say it's not there. And then you see the green button saying that it's okay, we've found the information.
And we've decided to not do so much translation of the technical aspects of accessibility and to make it more user-friendly, because the idea behind that was that people needing those features know exactly what they're looking for. So we won't try to make it simpler for people who don't know about accessibility. We're taking almost literally the Onyx descriptors.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would sort of assist somebody looking for a gift for somebody who needs accessibility, books with accessibility. I will move on to the fourth question because we're getting time sensitive. How can my bookstore utilize the robot reader? Is it available for independent bookstores to access?
This means independent bookstores outside of Quebec.
I guess that must be.
That would be another scoop we're working on opening to bookstores selling mostly English books. So we're working toward that direction with the Canadian Independent Bookstore Association.
Oh, nice. Okay, the next question, it is our second last question at the moment. Reading difficulty has been a difficult thing to nail. In light of the recent Ontario Human Rights Commission's report on the right to read and other such initiatives in other regions, do you feel this will help or hinder people from accessing the right book for them? Should I read that question again?
Yes, please.
All right. So reading difficulty, that label, has been a difficult thing to nail. In light of the recent Ontario Human Rights Commission's report on the right to read and other such initiatives in other regions, do you feel this will help or hinder people from accessing the right book for them? I mean,
I'm not sure what this refers to in the last sentence, but
yes, that's a good. I am sorry, I don't.
But maybe that person is referring to the scoop that Jean-Benoît said, that we will have the robot reader start to detect reading difficult, the reading difficulty level in a book, and in upcoming features. And at this point, I'm not sure if this will help or hinder reading. I think it would just be useful for people to know, and it will be useful for recommendation algorithms to be able to group books together and to be able to know that if someone liked, there's a trend that all the books that person liked were more difficult books. So maybe we should include more difficult books in the upcoming recommendations. This is what Jean-Benoît referred to is an R&D project that we're starting. We'll start by knowing, is there a way to do that in an automated manner that makes sense, then maybe we will test it just as a facet in the search engine, see if people use it, and then move to other experiments. It's the way we've been working together in the Les Libraires. It's very iterative. We make hypotheses, we build a prototype, test it, and then decide if we move forward.
And if I may, we've said it earlier, everything we do is try to extend on the web the expertise that our booksellers have in a brick and mortar store. So to try to get the information on a website about the difficulty of levels in reading is part of that, intention we have to make it more human on the website.
Right. Okay. And again, I imagine you're leveraging the Onyx codes for reading levels for this work. That some of the more educational publishers put in their Onyx, like Lexile codes. I'm speaking out of my area now, but I do know that reading level codes are leveraged in the educational market for sure. Kids' books that librarians use those. Are you familiar with those codes or?
Yes, yes. Yeah. I think the idea for us will also be to be able to complement, when that information isn't available, use the actual book, the actual content. That's the fundamental of the reader robot, and also maybe to explore other metrics that are not necessarily related to difficulty, but still to rhythm. Are the sentences short or long? The chapters, are they are there multiple chapters, very short chapters, or just a few longer chapters? So those they're not really difficulty indicators, but they're still indicators that give an idea of the type of reading experience that you will have, and those I don't think are part of those Onyx codes.
Right. And I think maybe that's where that last question was coming from as well, because the person did sort of add something here that, yes, we're right. It was about that feature that you introduced at the end there. And the question about how that level is determined has been challenged in different ways, was where they were coming from. And it sounds like, working on it the way that you plan to is dealing with that same issue in a way. And then I guess, I'm sorry. I think that's it for us. We've just hit the 3 o'clock mark. So I will give my thanks, give the BookNet thanks to Christian and Jean-Benoît for joining us today for this exciting venture. Talk about AI, a useful use for it. To our attendees, we invite you to join our upcoming session, Writing, Editing, and Designing Books with AI-Enhanced Tools and Workflows, Lessons Learned in a Rapid Content Creation Context. And that's on October 29th. You can find information about all upcoming events and recordings of previous sessions on our website, bnctechforum.ca. And lastly, we'd like to thank the Department of Canadian Heritage for their support through the Canada Book Fund, and thanks to all of you for attending. Thank you.